Hello, welcome to the David Watson podcast. Today I spoke with Peter about his debut novel, Passages even, and we just discussed so many things, and just one of those wonderful opportunities where two people just were able to have a conversation and just talk about things that may be a little bit more meaningful in life. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, welcome to the David Watson podcast. We've been chatting for a good 15 minutes already, but how are you doing?
Very well, thank you for having me.
Well, you're very welcome. One of the things I wanted to just ask a little bit more about as we were initially started talking, because you were saying about the whale season when they come past. So are you just literally sitting there and you just, what is it like, humpbacks, sperm whales?
They're mostly gray whales.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of killer whales. They work in pods, a little bit further off the coast. But yes, beginning mostly in May, the gray whales migrate back up to Canada. They spend the summer in Canada. They go down in the summer here, our summer, to the Mexican coast where they breed. And they swim up along the coast here with their offspring, new offsprings. And the mothers sort of crowd close to the shore because it's harder for the killer whales who want to go after their babies to get up to speed to knock the mother aside and grab the babies. So, and that's a spectacle you don't want to see. But come May and through the summer, we'll have lots of whales out here, and I can sit at my window and look out and just watch the spray and watch the breaching and
Wow.
Watch the tails. It's nice.
I can imagine it is, because there is something, and it's cliched and probably an overused term, but when you see, just because of the size, they're so majestic.
Yeah, and it's funny, that you say that. Most of the time what I see is a spray, I see a back hump up, and then I may see a fluke, that is the tail sweeping up and going down. And so you see it in parts, and you say, that's probably pretty big. But often, if you're standing right on the rocks, we have a cliff here. It's basalt rock. It's a type of volcanic rock. And occasionally you'll see a whale so close to the coast that you can see its whole outline.
Yeah.
And it's like it's bigger than a city bus.
Yeah.
Just right there, and it's just going under, and you say, oh my God, that's huge. And how is it? Oh, wow. So yeah, it's overwhelming, but it's really gratifying to see.
I like that, because it's one of those where no matter how often it happens, it's always got that sort of, oh wow, it just catches you.
Yeah, I asked the construction guy when we moved here about 5.5 years ago. He was helping us out, and he's a surfer. He's been a surfer his whole life. And I said, we're loving the coast here. We're loving what we're seeing. He says, does one ever get tired of this? Says, nah.
Yeah.
You won't get tired of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's brilliant.
No, I think it's beautiful. It is just when you get to see the scale of nature.
Yeah.
And
let me tell you another thing. Yeah, since you asked, the birds that fly by here. I mean, by my window, I have bald eagles that perch out on a tree, not far across, and they will fly by and going one direction, and they'll come back the other direction with a fish in their mouth. And we watch pelicans just crash diving into the sea to pull up a catch. And we'll see pelicans flying, migrating north or south, depending on the season, in these strings of 40, 60, 80 birds.
Oh,
just
wow.
Flying together. And sometimes it's like they're 2 or 3 feet off the water, just skimming in this long string. It's just an amazing thing to watch. And they're not talking. They're not calculating anything. They're just going.
I was lucky enough in 2019 to be in California, and I was surfing as a ghost.
Yeah.
And we just, me and my friend hired a big, like 30-foot RV type thing, and just drive down from San Francisco down to San Diego. And we ended up cutting it a bit short because he broke his foot. But while we were just outside San Francisco, we camped up someplace for the night, found this spot that we could just drive down to and go and surf. Now, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning. No, actually, no, it'd be earlier than that, because the game warden, the range warden, whoever, park warden, wasn't there. They weren't open yet. So it's whatever time they opened, we were finished by the time they were arriving for work. But I remember going down to the beach, we're just paddling out, and it's misty. So it's clear enough that you can see the waves that you need to see, but we haven't got much view, sort of 50 yards away. Yeah. But there were pelicans, and they were just flying. So we're sitting there waiting for the waves, the sets to come through with the waves, and they're flying, and they just, like you say, they're just 2 foot above the water. And because we're just sitting there sort of bobbing up and down, they're not paying much attention. So as they come by, I wouldn't say they were quite touching distance, but they're probably within 6 or 7 feet. And they just flew on by, and every now and again there'd just be 2 or 3 and they just and I was just like, oh wow. And that is
astounding.
It's one of the amazing things about surfing, is that when you're just sitting on that board, a lot of wildlife just ignores you.
Yeah.
They don't bother with you. They just leave you alone.
You're just another one of them.
Yeah. The birds and stuff especially. I mean, I've had a few seals sort of come along and get curious, and seals are massive when they're right next to you. You realise it's because all you normally see is that head, but when they're actually close to you, you're like, oh, damn, you're big.
It's intimidating.
Yeah. They're not cute when they're next to you.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you were probably an accomplished surfer. I tried surfing in my 20s, and I was terrible, but just being out there was majestic. Just riding the waves, just fighting the waves. And if you get a little ride, that's just so much fun.
I've only ever longboarded, so I'm at the lowest scale of surfing, and I'm not that good on a longboard. You see some people on longboards walking up and down, hanging on their toes.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm just a fat middle-aged bloke standing in the middle of the board. I can do that, and I can go down the wave, and I can do that and I've done it all over Europe, and and stuff like that. So I'm very fortunate at that. I've done it in a lot of places, but in terms of skill level, like riding a BMX, there's people that can do jumps and stuff like that, and then there's people that can just go down the road. I'm just going down the road.
Hey, but it's a thrill.
It's given me many happy hours. So and I've been fortunate enough to done it in a lot of countries, in a lot of beaches.
That's great. That's an adventure in itself.
It's one of the great things, obviously living so close to Europe, but it's just one of the great things about it as a hobby. It encourages you to go to other countries to try it out. I mean, I've never skied, I've never snowboarded or anything like that, but it's the same sort of thing. If you're into that sort of location, like hobby that requires a location, it's hey, let's try this country, let's try this place, and like I said, I've been lucky enough to have done a lot of countries now, and so
good for you.
Yeah, it's important to do these things as well.
It is.
So I suppose we should actually start chatting about your book, and because you went to the trouble of writing it. Yeah, well, you went to the trouble of writing it, and so just
trouble.
Explain to people about the book.
So the name of the book is Passages of Voyage from War to Peace, and shockingly, this is my first swipe at literary fiction. Any writing I've done before has been medical and technical and research and all that. But it's a literary fiction novel for readers who like multi-layered tales of transitions, relationships, moral injury, and healing. You might compare it to Richard Rousseau's Nobody's Fool or Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These. So the plot begins, picture the police dragging an aging, drunk Vietnam War Navy combat sailor veteran into a big public hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. And there, the vet gets matched up with a young psychiatrist in training from another country. And through their encounters, the reader gets exposed to several rites of passage for each of these men, one young, one old, to get to this point in their lives where they have to interact. And they'll get clues as to why the vet had but a single round in the chamber of his weapon when he was arrested. So, yes, I've had a long career in medicine, and along with my 5 siblings, my military service was during the Vietnam conflict. So, briefly, in Passages: A Voyage from War to Peace, I dragged the reader backwards through the hedge, so to speak, to think about trauma and healing and relationships, and hopefully provoke them to reflect on their own transitions. And I think some readers will thank me for
it. The Vietnam War is... I'd never... When I was growing up, so I was born in 74, I'm 51, so I was born in 74. So I remember that my kind of memories of the Vietnam War are non-existent, because although I was kind of alive, not of an age I would remember anything. And being English, I don't even know if any of it was on the news in Great Britain. So everything I know about it is from films and songs.
Yes.
And because of the nature of those films, it's always kind of nostalgic. You know, films are really good at taking absolutely terrible scenarios and convincing the public that it's a cool thing to do.
Why do you think that is?
I don't, because when I specifically think of like Vietnam films, or just any war film, they don't do it with films like World War II. If you think of Saving Private Ryan, there's nothing about Saving Private Ryan when you wish you were there. But with Vietnam, and probably because of the culture at the time, the music associated to it, and everything, it's very easy to make it seem cool. And when you see these films and they're like drinking beer, smuggling heroin, smoking weed, using hookers, it just seems like, oh, this is great. Yeah. There's a consequence to that, though. It's and they don't do that with other war eras. It's just graphic, and I think partly because there's no pop culture involved around World War II, World War One, and any European wars. There just isn't. Yeah. Vietnam's the first time when you've kind of got people playing electric guitars, people, rock, and there were no kind of, you had the swinging 60s and the freedom that brought, and then Vietnam comes along. So all the films that kind of, like the thing that just popped into my head weirdly is you've got these kids whose parents have survived the Second World War in America, okay, and then you've got the 50s rock and roll, the 50s cars, the 60s, and then you hit the 70s. The music just continues to stay great. Muscle cars are becoming a thing. Being young is just the best thing in the world, and we're discovering all of these freedoms: television, flight, aeroplanes, everything. So actually, everything going on around it does make the Vietnam War, look cool when you put it on film. And
yes, well, I mean, think about it. You're identifying a key cultural thing about the Vietnam War. We were flower children.
Yeah.
We were all hippies. We were experimenting with drugs and music, and just we're pushing our freedoms as far as we can go. And then comes this nasty war that few people understand. and it just gets worse over about a 10-year period. And but I've been asked often about when people think about the Vietnam War, there's been a lot of sort of revision and healing actually for the vets that have come back from that war. Think about it. It's been 5 decades, and during those decades, nobody wanted to talk about it until a few things happened. First of all, a grateful nation put a beautiful monument to the fallen from that war right in the center of Washington, D.C. And that had a big healing effect. But you brought up World War II, and I think the point I want to make is that most of the survivors of conflict of that war are now passed on. Indeed, most of the population that was alive at that time has passed on. So during that time, there's been this sort of reconciliation, and people become more grateful for people in uniform, their contributions at that time, the sacrifices they made, and what they saw. But more, you think about World War II and World War I, and for the United States, maybe even the Korean War. In those wars, the vets, the returning soldiers came back as heroes, successful. And they were welcomed as heroes. And, and indeed, the world order was improved through those conflicts. But since then, we have, and I just AI'd this, the United States has had at least 20 shooting encounters since that. You think about the big ones, the 2 Gulf Wars, the war in Afghanistan, our longest war. And the Vietnam War now rests in a different context. Instead of the context of World War I and World War II, from our viewpoint, the successful wars, it's now in the context of being among conflicts. The American public understands that it's very easy to get into these wars and very hard to extract yourself with any sort of meaningful outcome. And you can almost look at Vietnam as the first of those troubled encounters. And we don't vilify the military returning from the Gulf Wars. No. We respect them. We know, we understand the chaos, the fog of those wars. It was just unbelievable, almost indescribable if you weren't there. So it's a different context that the Vietnam War is being treated, aside from all the cultural things that were going on that confused us at the time.
I think something else is the Vietnam War had that previous wars had never experienced. One was fashion, and the other was public opinion, because there was a change in generations, and you suddenly had this kind of, like you said, the hippie kind of generation and the peace, and it was kind of fashionable as much as it was anything. But it was also the first time public opinion was having some weight behind it, because public opinion, nobody knew what public opinion was in around Second World War or anything like that. It was just, we get on with it. That's our job. Korean War, nobody. But by the time you got to like the Vietnam War, and you've got these protests going on, people are actually watching public opinion, and for the first time, a reason for being there is being discussed publicly. That was new. That had never happened before. And I think
at least the depth was different. Yeah. Difference in depth.
And I think the consequence of that was that when soldiers came home, but the people who were opposing the war were treating them like they were the enemy, as opposed to no, these are people just following orders, the same as everybody else. It's, they're no different in terms of their service than the firemen, the policemen, the paramedics. As we put on a uniform, we followed orders, we're doing what we're being told to do. But worse for those soldiers, I think a lot of the time, they didn't understand what was happening back home either. Yeah. And that kind of brings its own problems.
Yeah, they come home to it.
Yeah.
I digress, but your podcast, you're really keen about pointing out the technological and cultural things that are happening as the story is unfolding, and that's very interesting. So I applaud you on that.
Thank you. I find it deeply disturbing on a personal level how the rise in technology have dehumanized us. And I probably overthink it too deeply. But it's, and I think I'm fortunate in the sense, I don't mean in the sense of nostalgia, but I have a niece who's 15, and she's never grown up in a world without a smartphone or the internet. Whereas I was 24 before I got a mobile phone, and it wasn't a smartphone, and by the time social media was accessible, like I think I joined Facebook around 2011 or something, I was in my 30s. I didn't have a clue what it was. I remember a friend of mine, Becky, having to show me what Facebook was and what it was about, and I was just like, I've got to ask people to be my friend. I've known this person since I was at school. They're like, yeah, but if you don't ask them, they won't accept your friend request. And I was just like, yeah, but I'm not asking them out on a date. I went, I play football with that guy, and she's like, "No, David, it's not like that."
You're overthinking this.
Yeah, and it's so superficial. But I think as well, possibly because of my work with head injuries and stuff like that, I overthink about how the brain works. Sure. But the capacity to be bored has been stripped away. Yeah. And it turns out that was one of our greatest allies, because it made us curious. And I couldn't explain to a 15-year-old boy today the pleasure of a plastic model and some glue that's going to take you 4 hours and make a mess. Yeah. But it's silent.
Well, look at you now. I'm going to interrupt you. Let me look at you now. Here you are. You're doing this podcast, which involves considerable technology.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be out there, and people are going to listen, see it, all this. But what are you doing during this podcast? You're
listening,
building a relationship with me. Yeah. We're talking at a human level.
Yeah.
So don't despair. It can go both ways.
Of course, yeah. And it's that there's you'd remember this from your childhood, but somebody you would hear about some story or something going on, and it could be 5-6 miles away. Oh well, we've got nothing else to do today, so let's go and find out if it's true. And off you would wander, or you'd get on a bike or something because you had nothing else to do. But it turned into an adventure in itself, and it relied on relationships with people, making bonds with people, and it's going back to that the Vietnam thing, with the people returning home. These people who have seen people die, have seen conflict, have, like you said, PTSD and all that. They're coming back, and instead of feeling safe, they're feeling attacked.
Yeah.
And it was just the strangest time in history, because it was the first time anybody had seen people returning from war come back as basically being accused of being the problem. Nobody knew how to handle it either.
I'm going to ask you a question about that. Maybe you can counsel me.
Yeah.
You're involved with healthcare. You can try it on me. I had a recent experience, and I'm just probably getting too deep here.
That's cool.
But, I didn't see combat. I stayed stateside because we were getting out of the war by the time I was in my training. Um, and all my four brothers saw combat. Um, when I got into uniform, just out of high school, in the Air Force, first time I wore my uniform from the base into the city, I was stunned because my own peers were, shouting out jibes at me, you know, uh, not as gross as baby killer and all that, but they were just, taunting, sort of making me not feel welcome. And I was still 17 and I just put on the uniform, and this was already happening. And I even though I didn't come back from combat, I felt that, and I just almost couldn't imagine what those who came back had seen conflict, had seen the harm, must have felt the ingratitude, the confusion. And just recently, I had the experience of, I'm working with a local choir here in Lincoln County along the coast. And we had planned long ago, and not to be political, but even before this administration had been elected in office, we were scheduling a choral theme of, honoring our military, of honoring our country. And it just so happened that in planning this, we're turning around to the 250th birthday of our Declaration of Independence and Constitution. And in a debrief from the last series, I know this is getting long-winded, but
That's okay.
We were going through this, and we were talking about, to the choir, what the theme of the next concert series was going to be. And, we've got an age range that's pretty complete in the population of the choir. And the younger people there, from, I'd say, 40s down to 30s, and we have some interns that are in their teens. And it's just like the hand went up, and it's like, we don't want to sing that stuff. And the projection was, we don't see the United States in that light. We don't see the United States as a successful nation. We don't see it as a welcoming, freedom-loving place anymore. We're not going to sing about it. And I was stunned, and I just had a little deja vu.
Yeah.
People of that age seeing in this messy democracy, they're seeing the worst more than they're seeing the good. And I thought, is this what people are talking about, wokeism? I don't know.
It is.
It's so hallowed for me.
It's something that, and I think this is why I get troubled so much about technology, because it's like it's like looking at a cathedral and criticizing the windows and the structure, and it's like, hey, the foundations have held that up for centuries for a reason. And and the people that criticize Western democracy, United States of America, they never grew up in the Cold War. You've no idea how pivotal America was. You can hate Ronald Reagan or you can love him. I don't care. But there was a time in history where Ronald Reagan, or the United States of America, was considered the reason we had peace. And as a British person, I am eternally grateful for the fact that we were allied with the United States of America, because the whether the Soviet threat was real or not, we believed it was, and they believed that we were a real threat. And back then, growing up, and these children said, like, when people go on about the problems with vaccines, okay, yeah, COVID was a disaster. I need to be careful saying that word because it can get you struck on YouTube, right? But that was a disaster. But we don't talk about the fact that child mortality used to be 2 to 3 children in every 5. Vaccines got rid of that. Smallpox got eradicated from the planet because of medical science. People people take for granted antibiotics, and again, this is what I'm saying. They just accept. Well, I'll just get antibiotics. Yeah, the foundations of the generations before you built that platform for you to have this life, and long before you ever came along, people died. People never had that life. People never had that structure. The fact that you can even sit there and say, I don't even think my country is great. I know you don't own a passport because you've never fucking travelled anywhere and seen what other countries are like. Because some of them are shitholes. Okay? And some of them have political instability. You can't speak. You have to watch everything. But and this is the like I said, the reason I probably think too deeply on this, but when we were children, we actually knew this because we had to read books, we had to read magazines, we were curious.
We had civics class, yeah.
Yeah, but because if you did nothing, you were bored. You'd read a tool catalogue if somebody left it on a table long enough. Because you had nothing else to do. Because they can just scroll through everything. They've zero interest and opinions with no foundations. And when you ask them about something, why do you believe that? How do you believe this? They're like, they just freeze up and it becomes a threatening position now. And you go, no, it's a conversation. That's this. It's a conversation where I'm actually trying to understand where the fork in the road is that the two of us think differently. And the reason I want to know that is because the map that I think you're seeing the world on has the wrong directions. That's all. And
but we have to be careful not to blame the technology generation for how they act, how they feel. It's a product of the technology that our generation has,
created. Yeah, we I was about to say we created the monster, but it's not a monster. We've created an environment we don't understand.
Yes.
And
that's a good appraisal.
We don't understand the world that they're now growing up in. And the problem with that is we gave it to them.
Yeah.
But where one of the things, and again, probably a bias, similar to yourself, where I work in head injuries, I come across people who one day were walking around doing their daily business, just getting on with their life. Yeah. The next day they're in a coma. And somebody's telling their families. And then at some point in time they eventually meet me and I do this passive lie where I say it's nice to meet you. And it's not nice to meet you because you've lost somebody who, in some circumstances, unfortunately, has survived. Because they're never going to be the person that you met. But you're going to be bound by loyalty and love to the person who did not exist after the accident. Yeah. That person died at the day of the accident. But because the physical presence is still in front of you, and they share that name, they share that marriage certificate, and those memories with you, you've bound yourself to them regardless. And I come along and say, it's nice to meet me. Nice to meet you. What a crock of shit. I'm the last person in the world anybody wants to meet in those circumstances. But I'm David, essential.
David, yeah, you are. And I'll just segue back to the book. It's set in the context of, looming war, generational war. But I didn't intend the book to be a war story or even necessarily only about veterans. It's about healing from any type of trauma, any type of long-term battle someone confronts, whether it be an accident where they're injured permanently, whether it be a disease that they have to fight every day, whether it's, domestic or sexual violence, whether it's migration, whether it's experiencing homelessness.
Yeah.
I volunteer at a nighttime shelter and provide some medical care. It's devastating to people. It's like they're going to experience at least as much PTSD and all the other ramifications of kinetic movement.
Yeah.
So your patients have been there, your families are there.
Yeah.
So I applaud you for being involved.
No, I appreciate it. But just briefly to finish on, the thing is, because of the work that I've done, because of the work that you've done, we've seen the best and worst of scenarios.
Yeah.
And if you don't have some resilience to the bad things that go on in the world, the simple things are going to ruin your life. And when the terrible thing happens, you're going to be crushed. And the people that are still in your life, they need you, but you're not prepared. You don't have the tools to deal with it, because our generation, your generation, my generation, we've tried to make the world as the greatest place that we can for you. Yeah. But in doing so, we were selfish. We were trying to stop you from having some of the things that we had suffered, and your generation was trying to stop people suffering because of the things you'd suffered. And we were doing it with great intentions, but with a lot of ignorance.
Yes, and that's why we have to keep talking.
Yes.
We have to keep conveying, keep it open, keep it transparent. Mistakes that we've made and how they came about unintentionally, and what do we do to manage it. But that's resilience. The book is, put up as, my experience with looking at just ordinary people and the tragedies, the challenges they faced, and how much courage you see people rise up to.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope to convey in the book. But it's every day in life, the scenarios you just described, people do find a way to dig deep, and given time, are resilient. It's so stunning. I often wonder, would I have the courage to do what they've done in the same circumstance?
100%. 100%.
That's the exploration.
It's interesting. I was talking to I do another podcast with a friend, Samantha, and we kind of do talk about more sort of controversial topics and stuff, and we just give a breakdown on our opinions about them. And this is going to be an amusing analogy to some, or comparison. There used to be an author in the UK called Terry Pratchett. He wrote these books about Discworld and stuff like that, and he did a book called The Hogfather. And in the UK, at least, it had broken down into 2-part TV series. I think each one was 3 hours long, the 2 parts. So it's like a 6-hour TV film. And The Hogfather is effectively Father Christmas. Okay? But it's in this kind of, mythical fantasy world. And anyway, a part of the universe called the Accountants is trying to get rid of the Hogfather so they can control people. And the Grim Reaper, Death, is actually the grandfather to the niece who becomes the protagonist, who's going to save the world. Right? Wow. But her grandfather is the Grim Reaper, is Death. And he kind of eventually saves the day. Helps her save the day. Yeah. And there's a little monologue at the end, and he kind of like, why was it important? Why did they do it? Why did they even worship these things? And he just says, because people need hope. And when they have hope, they can achieve amazing things.
Yeah.
And I was telling my friend about this, and it was in relation to the problem with. So this is why I said it gets strange, because I was using that as an analogy about the issue with the Epstein files, because so many people in there are people that were heroes to people, and was just never. Who would have thought? I mean, I'm so glad that Joe Rogan come out of that unscathed, as in the emails say that he refused to meet him. So, yes, at last. One person actually said, "No, I don't want nothing to do with this guy." So Joe Rogan is in the Epstein file emails that were released because Jeffrey Epstein was saying, "Hey man, we're trying to get hold of this guy, and he's just refusing to get in touch. He's refusing to come, you know." And he even joked about something. Maybe we're a bit too, a bit too saucy for him or something. And Joe Rogan was just like, didn't even reply to anybody. He's just like, I don't need to meet this guy. So,
wow.
But the problem is when all of these people are getting taken down, you just sit there like everyone's talking about. It's all the elites. It's all controlling the world. It's all this. It's all that. But what we're actually hearing is people losing hope. That is there not any one person out there in a position of authority or a position of power who just can't be corrupted? Because if you look at every medieval knight story, it's about somebody that rises up against the darkness who cannot be corrupted.
Yeah.
And you do know.
Yeah.
And it's,
well,
it's hope.
There's so many stories, and this one is one of those. A character in there, there's so many flawed heroes. We're all flawed in some way. And, we try to find redemption for our flaws and hope that people see the good work that we try to do.
But if you
and it's always a balancing act.
But if you think about you skirted over it slightly, but you mentioned about you go to the homeless shelter and give medical help, but that provides hope. But if somebody wakes up that they're homeless, they've got no money, that there is nothing going well, there is nothing in that moment, and now they're ill. But that's okay because they don't know it yet. But tonight or tomorrow night, they're going to meet a guy called Peter. And Peter's going to be like, "We've got this, don't worry, it's okay." That's hope.
It is.
And
You've
that's
got to have a safety net for every human.
But the thing is we were talking about, we take what we do for granted and we don't reflect what is it that we've given the person who's had the interaction with us. Now, if I've got nothing going on in my life, but you're about to make me well again and give me the medical assistance I need, well, then I've got hope for tomorrow, haven't I?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, because that's you.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege to be able to connect with people in their hardest times, oddly enough. You see them vulnerable, and if you can gain their trust and open up, you can see lives changed a little step at a time. So I welcome that opportunity. I'm grateful for it.
And it's incredible. You only ever see it when people are at their lowest. The simple act of kindness and acknowledging it's so simple, and they come away from it feeling that they have some worth. And when they have that feeling, well, that's a stepping stone that can take them to another, can raise them up a little bit. And if they can raise themselves up enough a little bit that they lift their chin off their chest, well, then they've got a future to look forward to.
Yeah. When a person is at their lowest, if they find one individual who will listen to them, see them, and give them back just an ounce of self-respect, that's a start.
Yeah.
That's a start to build on.
Yeah. And that's why is just something as simple as turning up to the homeless shelter to offer some medical help. Is important. It's hope.
Well, I got to have something to do,
This is true. You'll only be at home.
Birds and writing books.
Yeah, you'll only be at home gathering dust, being in someone's way. So, but it is. It's it gets deep. But that's it is. But then the book you wrote is deep.
It is. It is. I won't be shy about it. That expression is an Irish expression, dragging someone backwards through the hedge.
Yeah.
You stun people by making them look at things and I tried to do this in this book just to get people to stop and think about things and ponder some passages that they've been through themselves and look at that. What did that period of time in my life do to me or give to me or take from me? Or what did it instill in me? How has my character been affected by that passage in my life? So that's what the book is about. And I hope every reader will identify with one or more characters and one or more situations that are in the book. It's I think the readers will enjoy it. So it's out there.
Perfect. Where can people find you?
So they can find the book, through the bookstore. They can ask it. It's printable by Ingram Spark, who does a lot of work for bookstores. You can get it on Amazon. So it's pretty easy to acquire, and it's not expensive. And I'm not making a living off of this, to be frank, and that wasn't the intention. The intention was to tell a story of meaning, and have people benefit from it, and that's why I'm promoting.
Do you have a website where people can find you?
It's being built.
It's being built.
Yeah.
So lastly, my random question. I want you to imagine you have a time machine. The time machine is a car of your choice. What would the car be? Where would you go? And what would be playing on the radio?
Oh my gosh, you thought about this question.
I've had this question for about 170 odd episodes.
So what kind of car?
Yeah.
And what would be the music? And where would I be going?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can I draw from past experiences?
It's a fictional question, isn't it? It starts with a time machine. It doesn't get more playful than that. Whatever your imagination springs to mind.
I would want to go back to my Volkswagen bus.
Yep.
That I had when I was
Was that a bay window or a split screen?
It wasn't a bay window. It was just, the bus. You're right up front. The engine is in the back.
The windscreen, the front windscreen. Was it one big window or two square windows?
I seem to recall it was one big window.
Bay window. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young playing, and I have my parakeet Spirit sitting on my shoulder while I'm driving through the night.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going on a straightaway across New Mexico that is just as straight as it is, and the moon is so bright that I turn off my headlights, and I can still see the highway beautifully. I can see the desert spanning out, and that was just nirvana until the highway patrol pulled me over. He said, "You can't drive without your lights." And he says, "Why were your lights off?" Officer, you got me. I was just enjoying a moment of beauty. So
yeah.
Give me the ticket. He let me go. He says, "I get it. Keep your lights on. Move on."
See.
So,
and that
I'm sorry to go retro on you there, but
no, man, that's why I love it, because it's it's one of those questions that you just don't know whether, because I could be talking to to anybody and you discover they have this crazy passion for a car or for music, and some people don't have anything and there's nowhere they want to go, so they get really flummoxed. Well, then some people, like you just described, this perfect scene driving down through the desert towards New Mexico, and you got pulled over.
So fortunate.
Yeah. And
you and I have been fortunate. We've had lives of adventure, lives of curiosity, lives of discovery, and we're better people for it.
100%. And that's a beautiful place to stop. Thank you so much for your time.
David, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
And that was Peter and I getting into the depths of putting the worlds to rights. And one of the things we actually spoke about before we started recording and quickly finished on after the recording is just, we don't give ourselves any credit for the work we do, the things we do, the impacts we have on people. You know, while we can be sitting there sometimes questioning everything we do, honestly, I can only say from personal experience, when something happens that becomes life-changing, you won't have the capacity to witness the impact of your loss on people. People, whether you realise it or not, and whether they appreciate it or not, love you and value you. And if something happens, they realise just how much they valued you. And they will also be the ones that suffer how much they've lost. So, with that in mind, as always, please do whatever you believe, wherever you are from. Please do take care and be blessed. Thank you.